smear of perpetual dawn on the eastern horizon. During this long night were born two brothers, minor gods of the milpers, those tangled fields of corn and bean and squash. They were named one Hunahpu and seven Hunahpu, for their respective day signs. In time one Hunahpu married Lady Egret, and she bore him two sons, one monkey and one artisan. The small family continued to live with one Hunahpu's mother and brother in the gloom of a world with no sun. Other gods hailed one and seven Hunahpu as knowledgeable and wise, the foremost seers on the earth. They taught young one monkey and one artisan many skills, and in time the boys became like their father and uncle, singers, musicians, poets, sculptors, and workers of jade and metal. Though the brothers possessed a singular, innate goodness, they tended to shirk their responsibilities in order to roll dice and play ball. Every day the four of them played 2 against 2 in the ball court, and as each game began a falcon would descend to watch them, sent by Hurricane and his sons. The falcon could fly in an instant from the sea-ringed world to Hurricane's abode in the 6th heaven, or just as well descend to the land of the dead to do his master's bidding there. Lady Egret left the earth, returning to the mother, but the 4 ball players remained behind. Their ball court was located at Great Hollow, on the road to the underworld, the dark land that men would one day call Zybalba, realm of fright. The king and queen of death could not help but hear them. Disturbed by the riotous sounds, the god and goddess called together their council, all the dark lords in that place of fear, tasked with bringing death to humans in a variety of savage ways. Who are these meddling fools that shake the earth with their running and that disturb the stillness of the grave with their shouts? Demanded the king of death. They show no proper fear and run roughshod over the natural order. We should bring them here to play ball. Since they have no respect for us, we shall beat them at their favorite game and then destroy them. The Dark Lords all agreed with their sovereign, adding that upon winning they could seize the brothers' gear, the pads, yokes and plumed helmets that made up their kits. The task of summoning 1 and 7 Hunahpu was given to the royal guard, 4 fearsome owls from the very throne room of the land of the dead. They flew from the underworld in an instant, alighting in the stands above the ball court. The 4 players halted their game and approached the messengers. We have been sent by the lords of the underworld, announced Strafa, chief among them. Hearken unto the words of the king and queen of death, you must come. Do us the pleasure of playing ball in our dark courts. Your skill amazes us. Bring your gear, your yokes and pads and rubber ball. Is that what the gods of that fearful place truly said? Asked one Hunahpu. Yes. Now, come along. We shall accompany you. Fine, but wait while we let our mother know. She'll have to watch over my sons while we're gone. The brothers took the boys back home and explained the situation to their mother. We've no choice but to go. These are messengers of the king of death himself. But we'll be back, we promise. Here, we'll leave our ball behind as a token. They hung the rubber spear in the rafters. Don't worry, we'll be kicking it around again very soon. One Hunahpu turned to his sons. You two keep practicing your music, your art, your skill at games. Keep this house, and your grandmother's heart, warm in our absence." Their mother began to weep at their words. "We're off on a journey," they told her, "not to our deaths. Don't be sad." Then the brothers left. Guided by the royal guard, they headed north toward the entrance to the underworld. They descended through strange canyons, past streams of scorpions, over rivers of blood and pus. None of these obstacles slowed them down. But then they came to a vast crossroads that offered 4 paths to the land of the dead: the red, the black, the white and the green. The messenger owls indicated the black road. "That is the one you should take. It is the king's road." And here was the beginning of their defeat, for the brothers heeded the royal guard, not suspecting that this was the path of the dead. They were led along its gruesome length to the council chambers of the Dark Lords, where their doom was further sealed. The horrid aristocrats of that fell place were seated in a row, but the first 2, the king and queen themselves, were clever statues carved and arrayed by the artisans of the netherworld. "Greetings, your majesty," they said to the first statue. "The dawn shine upon you, your majesty," they said to the second. The chambers erupted with laughter, for the brothers had failed again. Chortling, the Dark Lords mocked them. "Foremost seers, indeed. Those are mere mannequins, fools." In their hearts the nobility of the realm of fright felt certain they had already won. The real king and queen entered, smiles on their skeletal faces. "Perfect. You have arrived. Tomorrow you will show your skill with yokes and guards. For the present, however, take the seat upon the bench we have prepared." When the brothers sat down, they realized the bench was a burning hot slab. They squirmed around for a time, trying to save face, but finally they had to leap to their feet or risk real damage. The Dark Lords once more burst out in howls of laughter. They laughed so hard their innards ached. Even writhing in pain, they could not stop their chuckles and hoots. Now the underworld is full of torments of every kind, among them 5 terrible houses of torture. But as fate would have it, the brothers would only experience one. They were escorted to their supposed sleeping quarters by the rulers of that fearful place, who smiled and said, "Enter, friends. Get some rest. In a moment you will be brought a torch and 2 cigars." 1 and 7 Hunahpu went inside, greeted by inky blackness. Unbeknownst to them, the brothers were lodged in Dark House, a place devoid of light. Meanwhile, the Dark Lords conferred. "They are certain to lose. Let us sacrifice them tomorrow. It will be quick. We shall use our bone-white blade to kill them both, and then we shall keep their gear." The king and queen sent a messenger with a torch of oak wood and 2 lit cigars. "Here you go. You are expected to return these in the morning, whole, just as they are now." The brothers took the torch and the cigars, and once again they were defeated. They let the torch burn down to ashes. They smoked the cigars down to stubs. In the morning they were led back to the council chambers, fear mounting in their hearts. "Where are my cigars? Where is the torch that I lent you last night?" demanded the King of Death. In that moment of terror, a vision winged its way to the brothers from the heavens above. They saw their doom, but then they saw their victory. So they admitted defeat. They're all gone, Your Majesty. Very well. Today your days are ended. You will die here. You will be ripped from the world. Your faces will remain hidden. You will be sacrificed. And there and then the brothers were slaughtered. Their bodies were buried together in a single grave near the Bol Court, except for the head of one Hunahpu, which was removed at the king's command. Take his head, the god of death instructed, and set it in the forked branches of that bare tree beside the road to serve as a reminder of our might. But as soon as the head was fixed in place, the tree miraculously bore fruit, round and heavy like a skull. It was the calabash, and it hung now from every branch so that it was no longer clear where the head of one Hunahpu had been deposited. The duck lords gathered round in amazement. It was clear that the sudden appearance of fruit was an ill omen. So the king and queen issued an edict: let no one pick fruit from this tree. Let no one even sit beneath its boughs. And all the inhabitants of that dreadful realm obeyed, except a maiden. The victory of their mother, the Duck Lord Blood Gatherer, had a daughter, a maiden named Lady Blood. He told her of the tree and the prohibition of their king, trusting that she would obey. But Lady Blood was curious. She wondered about the taste of the fruit and pondered its possible origin. Finally, she could not resist looking on the miracle herself, so she went alone to where the tree stood, near the Bol Court and the graves of sacrificial victims. "Ah!" she exclaimed. "What sort of fruit is this? It simply has to be sweet. If only I could pick one and not be killed or banished. Just one." Then the head of one Hunahpu spoke from the fork in the tree. "Come, you're not really interested in these round things hanging from the branches. They're just skulls. You can't possibly want one." "But I do," answered Lady Blood. "All right, then. Stretch out your right hand." "Fine." Lady Blood reached toward the source of the voice, and the head squirted a bit of spit into her palm. Startled, the maiden drew back her hand and stared at it closely, but the saliva was gone. "The spittle I've given you is a sort of symbol," explained the voice of 1 and 7 Hunahpu, for they had merged and spoke with a single mind. "You see, my head here has been stripped bare, all that's left is just the bone. But that's the way it is even with the head of a great lord. He only looks decent because of the flesh on his skull. Once he's dead and rotted away, though, people shrink in fear from that naked bone. His sons, now, they're like his saliva, which still contains his essence even after leaving his mouth. Whether they be the sons of a lord or a wise man or an orator, they preserve the basic nature of their father. His face isn't wholly lost, but passes to the children he leaves behind. That's what I'm doing for you. Now abandon this land of fight. Go to the surface of the sea-ringed world before they kill you. Trust in my words." The skull gave her many more instructions before she was on her way. By the time she reached her home, the saliva had sparked life in her womb, and she conceived twins, sons of one and 7 Hunahpu both. But instead of leaving the land of the dead, she remained in her father's house. When 6 months had passed, Lord Bloodgatherer noticed that his daughter was pregnant. He went to the council chambers and addressed his king and queen. "That daughter of mine is with child. A bastard." "Very well," said the queen. "Question her. If she refuses to reveal the truth, you must punish her. Have her taken to some distant place and sacrificed." So Lord Bloodgatherer confronted Lady Blood. "Whose child is in your belly, girl?" "There is no child, Lord Father." "I have not known the face of a man." "I see. So you are clearly a whore." He summoned the royal guard, and when those 4 fearsome owls arrived, he gestured at his daughter. "Take her away for sacrifice. Bring back just her heart, in a gourd, and surrender it to our king and queen this very day." The royal guard departed, bearing aloft in black talons Lady Blood, the gourd and the council's bone-white blade, with which they were to sacrifice the maiden. Once they had traveled far from the center of the underworld, the owls alighted and reluctantly readied themselves to complete the task. Lady Blood begged them to reconsider. "It is not right that you should kill me, messengers. There is no disgrace carried in my womb, but a miracle, begotten when I went to visit one Hunahpu's head there beside the bowl court. There is a greater power at work here, respected friends. You must not sacrifice me." The owls looked upon her unblinking for quite some time. They had known her all her life, had watched her grow into a delightful young woman. Deceit was not her nature. And even if she were lying, they realized with a start, they did not wish her to die. "But what can we take in place of your heart, Lady Blood?" "Your father demanded we bring it to the king and queen today. My heart will never belong to them. And you, friends, must no longer call this place your home. Never again let them force you to kill someone unjustly. There, upon the sea-ringed world, you can harry true villains. From now on, let the king and queen of death taste only blood, sap, resin. No more hearts burned in their presence. Not mine, not anyone's." She placed her palm on a cochineal croton tree. "Drain the sap from this plant. Collect it in your gourd." They used the blade to slice the trunk until sap dribbled out. The red resin congealed in the makeshift bowl, forming a lump like a heart surrounded by what appeared to be clotted blood. "On the surface of the world you will be blessed," said the maiden to the owls with a happy smile. "You will have all you desire. So be it, lady. We will accompany and serve you. But go on ahead while we present this false heart to the Dark Lords." When the royal guard arrived in the council chambers, the fell aristocracy of the Netherworld had already gathered. "Has it been done?" asked the King of Death. "Indeed, Your Majesty. Here is her heart in this gourd." "Very well. Let us see." The king lifted out the coagulated sap, which looked for all the world like a heart glazed with ruddy gall. "Excellent. Stir up the fire, let us set it among the coals." Once the resinous clump was thrown upon the fire, The duck lords delighted in the aroma of its burning. They stood near, leaned into the smoke, delighted at the sweet smell. As they watched it bubble and hiss, the owls slipped away, overtaking the maiden and leading her up through caverns, out of the bleak land of the dead and onto the surface of the earth. And that is how the duck lords were first defeated, every one of them tricked by a maiden. Their birth and childhood following the instructions she had been given by 1 and 7 Hunahpu, Lady Blood finally arrived where their mother lived with 1 monkey and 1 artisan. She carried sons in her womb. Soon they would be born, twins named Hunahpu and Xbalink. Standing before the grandmother, the maiden announced, "Here I am, Lady Mother, your daughter-in-law, your own sweet child." "What? Who are you? Where are you from? How can you be my daughter-in-law when my boys have both died in the land of the dead? Look upon these two, 1 monkey and 1 artisan, their true blood and heirs. Now go. Get out." Wincing at the shouts, Lady Blood did not move. "Regardless, I am still your daughter-in-law. I belong to your sons. 1 and 7 Hunahpu are not dead, Lady Mother. They live on in what I carry. They have turned dark tragedy to brightest hope, as you will see for yourself in the faces of my sons." The other woman scoffed. "Daughter-in-law indeed. No, you lying wench, I have no need of you or the fruit of your disgrace. My sons are dead, I tell you. You are clearly an impostor." Lady Blood remained where she was, head high. After a few moments the grandmother frowned. "Right. You claim to be my daughter-in-law. If that is true, then go bring food for these boys. A net full of ripe ears of corn from our milpa." "As you say," the maiden replied. She walked along the road that 1 and 7 Hunahpu had cleared until it opened onto the family milpa. 1 long clump of corn stalk stood in its midst, with a single ear dangling from it. "Oh, I am but a sinner, a debtor," Lady Blood cried. "Where will I get the net full of food he has demanded?" Then she remembered who she was, a noblewoman from the land of the dead, powerful and commanding. Lifting her hands, she called out to the guardians of food, "Arise now, come, O Lady of Tribute, O Lady of Maize Gold, O Lady of Cocoa Beans, O Lady of the Shameless Day. Come, you guardians of the food of 1 monkey and 1 artisan." Then, seizing the corn silk at the top of the ear, she yanked upward. Though she did not pick the corn, it multiplied magically, filling her net till it overflowed. Calling to the animals of the field, she enlisted their help in transporting the load back to the house. Once they had arrived, the creatures brought her a carrying frame, and she made herself break out in a sweat so her mother-in-law would believe she had brought the net herself. The grandmother emerged from the house and was astonished at the mound of food. "Where did you get that corn? Did you steal it? Let me go see if you have stripped the milpa bare." She rushed to the field to find the clump of corn stalks intact and the impression of the net sunken deep in the earth. Something miraculous had occurred. And where there was one miracle, there could be others. She hurried back home and spoke to Lady Blood. This is surely a sign that you are, in truth, my daughter-in-law. I will keep watch over all that you do. Those grandchildren of mine you carry must already be as magical. The day at last arrived, but Lady Blood was on the mountain, so their grandmother did not witness the birth. Labor came upon the maidens suddenly, and the twins were born, Hunahpu and Xbalink. When their mother finally brought them down to the house, they could not sleep and made quite a fuss. Take them back to the mountain and leave them there, the grandmother told the other two boys. They just will not stop screaming. So one monkey and one artisan dumped them on an anthill, hoping they would die, but the babies slept soundly and were not harmed. The jealous half-brothers then threw them in the brambles, from which their mother soon rescued them. Neither had a scratch. In the end, the older boys simply would not accept their half-brothers or Lady Blood into their home. The maiden had to raise her sons in the mountains, aided by animals and other beings. Over the years they learned to harness the divine energy that was their birthright, to communicate with the animals, to hunt with a blowgun, to coax melodies from the flute, and above all to play ball with such skill as to make their fathers very proud. When they were able to fend for themselves, Lady Blood left them, knowing their destiny could not be fulfilled at her side. Once their mother was gone, Hunahpu and Xbalink spent their days shooting their blowguns and felling prey. Though they had never received love or food from their father's family, the boys began to visit their grandmother's home again, avoiding mealtime in order to minimize conflicts. Silently, understanding their low rank in the family, they suffered the rudeness of their grandmother and older brothers. Making a gift of fowl each day with the full understanding that they would never have a bite from the fruit of their own labor, which was devoured by their older siblings without a word of thanks. One monkey and one artisan had suffered greatly from the loss of their father and uncle, but they had grown in stature through the years, becoming in many ways the equals of 1 and 7 Hunahpu. However, though as talented and wise as their father, the brothers felt such envy of the twins that their hearts were filled with hate, keeping them from showing true wisdom. Their natural foresight told them that their young brothers were destined for greatness, but they did nothing to encourage those abilities. Finally, Hunahpu and Xbalink decided to put an end to their siblings' cruelty. We'll just turn their beastly nature against them. It'll be a fitting payment. If they'd had their way, we would have died as babies or been lost as little kids. They treat us like slaves. To their minds, we're nobodies. Time to make an example of them. That evening they arrived at their grandmother's house empty-handed. "Why have you not brought any birds?" she demanded. "Well, grandmother, we shot some birds, but they're stuck in the top branches of a tree. We're pretty clumsy and can't climb up there, so we were hoping our older brothers would come help us." "Very well," said one monkey and one artisan. "We will go with you in the morning." The next day the twins led their brothers to a large Madadi cacao tree replete with countless singing birds. They loosed a barrage of darts, but not a single bird fell to the ground. "See? They're getting stuck or something." climb up and fetch them here. Fine. One monkey and one artisan clambered up into the very top branches of the tree, looking for the birds. As they did so, the twins caused the trunk to swell and stretch toward the sky until it was monstrously big. When their brothers realized what was happening, they tried to get down but couldn't. Little brothers, they called down, take pity on us. What can we say? This tree is frightening to behold. Look, it's your loincloths that are keeping you from moving freely. Loosen them and then retie them so the long end sticks out behind you. You'll be able to get down easier. One monkey and one artisan did as they were told. The moment they pulled out the long ends of their loincloths, these instantly became tails. The spell had been triggered. Within seconds, the older brothers were transformed into spider monkeys. They leapt from the gigantic madder to cacao into the branches of smaller nearby trees and then went swinging their way into the dense mountain forests, chattering and howling wildly. And so one monkey and one artisan were defeated by the divine magic of Hunahpu and Xbalink. The matter of their grandmother still remained, of course. When they got home, they immediately called to her. Grandmother, something's happened to our brothers. Their faces have changed, now they look like animals. If you have done something to them, boys, you will break my heart. Please tell me you have not worked your magic on them. Don't be sad, grandmother. You'll see your older brother's faces again. They'll be back. But this is going to be a test for you. You can't laugh at them, okay? Now, let's see what fate has in store. They sat down outside their house and began to play the flute and drum, singing a song they called Hunahpu Spider Monkey, in which their brothers' names were repeated. Soon one monkey and one artisan approached, excited, and began to dance to the music. When she saw their ugly little simian faces, their grandmother could not contain her laughter. Her guffaws startled the monkeys, and they scampered off into the forest. Grandmother, didn't we say not to laugh? Look, we're only going to try this 4 times. 3 more. You simply have to keep yourself from laughing next time. They started up the tune once more, and their transformed siblings rushed to the patio to dance with wild abandon. The grandmother struggled not to even giggle, but the monkeys had truly funny faces. Their little pot bellies jiggled and their genitals were showing. Their grandmother could not help herself. She burst into gales of laughter that made them run off toward the mountains. What else are we supposed to do, grandmother? Here goes attempt number 3. Again the song. Again the dancing. Now, however, their grandmother kept her composure. So the monkeys clambered up the wall, making foolish expressions. They puckered up their red lips and snorted at the twins. It was too much. Their grandmother cackled and howled, and her grandsons left in a hurry. This is the last time, Hunahpu and Xbalink warned, and they struck up the melody again. But the monkeys did not return. They stayed in the forest instead. The twins shook their heads in disappointment. We tried, grandmother. they're gone. But don't be sad. You still have 2 grandsons, right here with you. You can give your love to us. Our older brothers will always be remembered, you know. For they were given names and titles. Down the ages, musicians and artists and scribes will call on them for inspiration. Yes, they were prideful and mean, and their cruelty brought ruin on their heads. But people will always remember that once one monkey and one artisan accomplished great things, in a distant time, when they lived with their grandmother in a small house near the mountains. They journeyed to the realm of fright. And so Hunahpu and Xbalan took their rightful places as the heirs to their fathers. For a time they tended the family milpa, enchanting axes and hoes and animals to do the brunt of the work while they went hunting with their blowguns. After a time, however, they found their father's rubber ball in the rafters. Strapping on their siblings' gear with great joy, they headed down to the ball coot. For a long time they played there alone, sweeping the field of their fathers. The Duck Lords of the realm of fright could not help but hear. Someone has started a game again there above our heads. Are they not ashamed to be stomping about like that? The King of Death asked. Did not 1 and 7 Hunahpu die precisely for this reason? Just like these knaves, they wanted to prove their importance. Go, then, messenger, summon these fools as well. Hurricane's falcon, who had watched many of their father's game, winged his way to the surface to call the twins before the Nether Council. As he approached, he cried out, "Wacko! Wacko! What's that sound?" Hunahpu exclaimed, dropping his yoke. "Quick, grab your blowgun." They shot the bird out of the air, a pellet impacting against his eye. When they went to grab him, they asked why he was there. "I've a message for you, but first heal my eye." They took a sliver of rubber from their bowl and used it to cure his wound. As soon as his vision was restored, he spoke the words in his belly, "You were commanded by the King and Queen of Death to present yourself in the realm of fright in 7 days. Bring your kit, for you will be playing ball against the Dark Lords of the Netherworld. They promise it will be great fun." The twins went to their grandmother, who was devastated by the news. "We've got to go, of course," they told her. "But first let us be your advisors. Each of us will plant an ear of unripe corn here in the center of the house. If one dries up, you know that grandson has died. But if they sprout up, you can be sure we're alive." After the planting, the twins took up their gear and their blowguns and departed. Away down toward the realm of fright, over the rim of the world, along the canyons, through flocks of strange birds. They came to the river of pus and the river of blood, intended as traps by the Dark Lords. But the brothers caused their blowguns to swell as they had the Madadi cacao tree and simply floated across without a care. Then the brothers came to the crossroads, but their mother had taught them about the roads, black, white, red and green. Hunahpu plucked a hair from his knee and with a whispered spell transformed it into an insect he called Mosquito, the perfect spy. "Go, little guy. Bite each of them in turn till you've tasted them all. Then forever the blood of travelers will be yours. Good, said the mosquito, and it flew down the black road. When it reached the council chambers, it alighted first on the wooden statues that had been dressed up to resemble the king and queen. It bit the first, but got no response. The second said nothing either. Next he bit the third one, the king of death. Ow! He cried. What, Your Majesty?